Modelo, Penn State football pregame show. Brian Tripp, Christian Hackenberg, Jason Kabinda. The Nittany Lions look to make it 3 in a row today. Get to bowl eligibility here on the road in Piscataway, New Jersey, taking on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Rutgers also 5-6 on the year, 2-6 in the Big Ten, same record as Penn State. So we just said it. Brian Tripp, our former Nittany Lions, Christian Hackenberg, Jason Kabinda. Penn State coming off a dominant performance at home to wrap up the home slate against Nebraska on Senior Day. Christian, it's a gorgeous day here in Piscataway. Happy Thanksgiving to you and Jason. Looking forward to seeing this football team out there again today, coming off their best performance of the year.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys, and to all listening. Looking forward to a good holiday season, and it's been a long year. We earned this one. I'm excited about this. Let these guys go out on a high note. Really like the matchup. Really like our chances today. We'll obviously get into that, but no better Saturday for football than this one, so fired up about it.
Would love to echo that sentiment. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Excited for today. Kick some Scarlet Knight butts. The battle of bowl eligibility is among us.
It is here. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Penn State's ongoing coaching search and more, but let's start with Penn State's best performance of the year. In fact, they played 10 really good quarters in a row, but a 37-10 win at home against Nebraska last week, a complete performance, 60 minutes on offense and defense. The stats tell the story of that game. Penn State wins at 37-10. Look at their ability to run the football against that Nebraska defense. 231 yards, 160 of those came from Kaytron Allen. Ethan Grunkemeyer was 11 for 12 in the football game, but you can see Penn State offensively well-balanced. Didn't have to throw a ton, but enough to keep the defense off balance for Nebraska. Get off the field on those fourth downs, and they set the tone right from the get-go in that game. Nebraska goes down, has a 4th and goal. Penn State stops them. Then they take it 98 yards, one of 5 drives for Penn State of 7+ plays or 75+ yards to score a touchdown. It really was a dominant performance, and it all started with that Penn State running game, Christian.
Yeah, and you saw it there. I mean, only 9 third downs, 1 4th down conversion that we had to get. That's pretty efficient when you just think about that broad stroke, not really even getting into those situations offensively where you potentially have to punt the football. So I thought they did a great job controlling the line of scrimmage. To your point about Grunk, wasn't asked to do a lot, but when he did, it was very, very efficient. And to that point, I just thought it was a great complementary passing game to our running attack. And that's how I thought this team was built at the beginning of the year, and just really happy to see that identity finally coming to fruition at some point during this season, because I think it's something that whomever the next guy is going to be, that can be really built upon, and something that, you know, I personally love. Like, I love being a physical team at the line of scrimmage because it makes everybody's job easier. So really, really good performance. And to your point, 10 quarters of it, I thought that identity's been coming out specifically on that side of the ball. And a great chance for them to continue it this Saturday against a Rutgers team that's been struggling stopping the run.
You said it best, Christian. I mean, we got back to our identity and being who we are. You know, 231 rushing yards, and obviously there's some explosives in there, but there's a ton of tough yards in there too, which I thought in the early parts of the year we weren't able to get on the 3rd and 1s and the 3rd and shorts, you know, running the football, which we've been doing as of late really, really well. And it's a credit to Terry Smith and the way he's got this team playing with spirit, energy, and effort, and, you know, the intensity that we expect out of a Penn State football team. And I think that's the reason why there's as much controversy as there is right now when it comes to the coaching discussion, because of just how much of a good job Terry has done of rallying the locker room and getting these guys to play hard and play like we've always known, you know, Penn State football program to play like. So there's definitely merit in that. Terry's doing a great job. Obviously, Terry's a dear friend and brother to us. So I think we expect that to happen again today, especially with how horrific that Rutgers rush defense is.
Before we dive into Kaytron Allen, just a couple of numbers here to put a bow on the Ethan Grunkemeyer performance. 11 for 12, 181 yards and a touchdown. He's the first Penn State quarterback since Todd Blackledge in 1981 at Syracuse to throw 10 or more passes in a game and complete 90% of his passes or more. 8 of his 11 pass completions went for a first down. He had 5 of his 11 completions went for 20 or more yards. It just shows you how balanced that offense was. It didn't have to be a lot, but it was just enough. All-time career rushing record holder at Penn State. Let's look at some of the big runs that Kaytron had, and why were they able to, Christian, just really establish that line of scrimmage and run the football with such effective ability?
Yeah, I think Jason did a great job talking about the adjustments that Terry Smith has forced down the offensive staff's throat, really, it seems. But a lot of credit needs to go to that offensive staff. You see this offensive line getting hats on hats, creating the space. I thought early in the year, watching this team and watching this run game develop, we were missing on just simple identifications and really just getting hats on hats. And when you start to do that, you start to see things like this happen, and giving Kaytron the space and the ability to have two-way goes and make the offensive line right. So to me, the biggest point is being able to really hone in on what these guys do well, what they see well, and put them in those positions to be successful. And it's not just Kaytron, it's not just the quarterback, it's everybody on that offense. And specifically when it comes to the run game, the offensive line, I thought they've done a really good job of simplifying it. And you're seeing these guys play with a little bit more confidence.
I really thought the left side of the offensive line too, Nolan Rucci, Venga Ioane. Look, you can go across the board when you run the ball for that many yards in a game, and not just Kaytron Allen, but Nicholas Singleton. But that offensive line, Jason, I thought was dominant, and you're seeing them play their best football here down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing between before and what I'm seeing now as of these last few games is they're playing with violent intent. Like, football is the kind of game where there's a level of intent in which you need to do your job. Yes, there's a bunch of X's and O's. Yes, there are plays. You draw the line. You're supposed to go here. You're supposed to go there, whatever. But the reality is it's about how you do it. It's about how you get from point A to point B. It's about how you go through the line of scrimmage and approach the opponent in front of you. And I think that's really what has changed more than anything. Christian obviously mentioned early in the year that there were some, ID issues at IDing the mic, making sure we had the right box count, things of that nature. But after that, man, the game is the game, and that's played with a certain level of energy and effort, and that's what you've been seeing as of late, that is able to spring these explosive runs for Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton, two of the best running backs in the Big Ten.
And two of the best in Penn State program history. Let's look at the numbers for Kaytron Allen now. He stands alone on top, the all-time leading rusher in Penn State history, 3,954 yards. Illustrious company, Nicholas Singleton in there as well. In fact, Singleton tying last week Saquon Barkley for career rushing touchdowns and career overall touchdowns atop the Penn State record board as well. But there is the top 5 all-time. Kaytron Allen, number 1, passing Evan Royster with 160 yards last week in the win. Both running backs, Singleton and Allen, had a pair of touchdowns against Nebraska. And it really is a great accomplishment for a guy like Kaytron. I had a chance to talk to him after the game and just see how far he's come, not only as a football player, but I think as an individual, growing and making the most out of a college experience. It's a really cool honor, obviously, to stand alone in that illustrious company that you have at Penn State. But to see how far he's come as a person and as a player during his 4 years in Happy Valley.
I think that's the biggest point there, Tripp, and he's done it the right way. And it's always cool to see guys who care about not only what they do on the field, but how they represent the program and those that came before them off the field. And he's at the pinnacle, and he's a great example of that in both of those categories. And to your point, Nick Singleton has a chance to potentially jump above Kurt Warner there and break the touchdown record. So the fact that both of those guys were able to do that at the same time here, very, very impressive. Jason and I talked about that this week, and it's that's an element that you very rarely see in today's game, in today's day and age, and college football as a whole. Guys who are willing to work together, share the load, and for both of them to have that amount of success in a program that has had such continued success going back decades, specifically at their position, really, really cool accomplishment for both those guys. And to your point, Tripp, great representations of the program off the field.
Yeah, and I think great representation of what, athletics at that age, should look like. I think it's a transforming landscape right now. You have kids who don't want to face adversity, who don't want to share, who wants it to be all about me, me, me. And I think Kaytron and Nick are the perfect example of, what can be accomplished when you go to a destination together as opposed to going alone, when you decide to put the we before the me, when you're not having your parents call coach for more playing time, and you're not being a cancer in the locker room and complaining about your role and things of that nature. You just put your head down and you just work. So I think that's a testament and really an example for all young athletes that they can look at and really aspire to be like, because it's very honorable the way they've gone about their business.
Also, the last couple of weeks, an example of what we thought this Penn State defense could be all season, pressuring the quarterback, playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Their best players have now been their best players on the defensive side, with Denai Dennis-Sutton, Zane Durant up front. Amari Campbell continues to play terrific at linebacker, and then a really, really good secondary. Jason, your impressions when you're talking about all these numbers on the offensive side and you put up 37 points against a running back like Emmett Johnson, Penn State's defense, after that opening drive and getting the stop down at the 2-yard line, Penn State's defense was equally as impressive against Nebraska.
Yeah, and you really mentioned it. I mean, that was the tone setter in this game, was that first drive that looked a little bit shaky. Emmett Johnson rips off a long run, and, it looked like remnants of that Michigan State game again, like, oh, here we go. Do we need a drive or two to get our feet in the ground? And, they get all the way to the goal line, and you just see a very impressive goal line stop, and that set the tone and the energy for the rest of the day. I mean, guys flying around. You're seeing pursuit. You're seeing tackling. You're seeing fundamentals. A little bit of trickery. Cover zero, simulated pressure. I mean, they did such a good job. This is a goal line stop here, man. And just look at the energy. Look at the guys celebrating, with each other. Kamaju here, just suffocating on the naked bootleg. I mean, the DBs played so well, challenging at the tops of routes. Look at the pursuit of the defense on a tunnel screen on a fourth down. I mean, I think they went 1 for 6 from fourth down on this day. So they're playing well in the critical moments. You see Zane Durant there getting a big-time fourth down sack. Another fourth down here. You got a cover zero, simulated pressure. I mean, nobody's open. So, I mean, this defense right now is really finding its stride. They're understanding Jim Knowles' system. And most importantly, they're playing with confidence. I thought in the beginning of the year, they were playing like they were thinking too much. They're playing like, and Christian knows what it's like when you have this mentality, but when you play just to not make a mistake, that is hard to play this game like that. You don't play fast. You think too much. You don't react and play instinctively. And now they're playing with instincts. Now they're playing not afraid and without fear. So that's the result that you're seeing now.
Hack, I want to follow up on that. And we heard about Terry Smith and insisting to Jim Knowles to put the Prowler package back in that Penn State utilized under Manny Diaz. How much is it, and maybe it's not a full, black and white answer here. How much is it that now the defense has had time to learn and understand Jim Knowles' defense? How much credit does Terry Smith deserve for the way the defense is playing now that he's starting to put his fingerprints on the team and the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think the credit does need to be spread around there. I think there's an element of them settling in and grasping the foundational concepts of what Jim wanted to do. To Jason's point, I think there's some credit to the players as well for cutting it loose and just understanding that as long as they play fast and that's all 11 guys playing fast, rallying to the football, you can oftentimes overcome those types of mistakes structurally with effort and talent, which that side of the ball does have. And then I think the biggest change that I've seen with Terry Smith, and it really goes across like both sides of the football, even special teams, is just playing with confidence and simplicity. Like, they're not overthinking things. They're not playing with any level of hesitancy that they may have played with early in the year. You just see this different type of attitude. And at the end of the day, like, I don't really care what you call. If you have good football players and they're playing with that type of confidence and freedom, it's going to look good. And I think that's where Terry's really done a great job, is just, hey guys, like, let's not overthink this. Let's get back to the basics about what this game is about. And it's controlling the lines of scrimmage. It's about setting things up the right way and taking your chances when you have them. And it's about playing with confidence. And right now, you see all three of those things on full display for this football team. And it's a shame that it took this long, but it's a good thing, as I said, for them to finish this season strong, potentially get another opportunity to strap it up for a bowl game, and set the tone heading into spring ball.
Yeah, certainly Terry did a great job rallying the troops in a very difficult situation. And now you look, the troops have rallied behind Terry, right? After the game last week, the players on the field with the signs that said hire Terry Smith. You can see it during the post-game interview, and there's a ton of momentum from Terry and this program right now where the players have really bought into, and I think some of the fans have really bought into what he's done to get this team to play with the identity that it's played with here over the last couple of weeks. And now Terry Smith has perhaps played himself into being a true contender for this head coaching position. What's impressed you most about Terry Hack, and what does he have a chance at this thing?
Yeah, man, I think that's a tough question when you ask about does he have a chance. What impresses me the most is that he's given himself a chance, and it's nothing that I didn't expect from a guy like that. And Jason and I touched on it this week. Like when you go back to what Pat said about what he's looking for in the next head coach here, listen to that press conference. Any of you guys tuning in here, like go back and listen to it and just remove the emotion and what is actually said and just see if Terry aligns. And I think you'll find out that he does in a lot of those ways. Whether that's the decision that's ultimately made or not is not my call, and nor one that I'm going to try to petition for one way or the other. But what I will say is as a guy who cares deeply about this place, Terry does as well, and it's on full display. And I think that that's something that deserves a lot of credit. And I hope that there's, no matter how this thing shakes out, that he's got a bright future with the Penn State football program in some capacity, because he's a perfect representation of this place, and has ran into a really tough situation and handled it with grace, elegance, and success in a lot of ways. Whether you want to define it as this crazy level of success or not, it was a tough situation, and he got out of it better than most. So there's a lot of merit to that.
Jason, let me just read what Pat Kraft said at the press conference following the firing of James Franklin about who or what he wants in the next coach at Penn State. He said the next coach will be someone who embodies everything Penn State stands for: integrity, accountability, toughness, humility, and a great motivator. They have to fit Penn State, represent the toughness, the blue-collar work ethic, and the class that defines this institution. Someone who honors our tradition but isn't afraid to evolve. Someone who understands the weight of we are. And I think Terry has proven, and I think Christian made a great point, just to get himself into the conversation where it feels like he actually has a seat at the table now is a real testament to what Terry's done with this program over the last few weeks.
And I think I think you have to look at our history as a program, understand there's been 5 head coaches that have won a game in Beaver Stadium. I think that's why when you hear the rhetoric surrounding this coaching conversation and who the next guy is going to be, it's because our tradition and culture is really so sensitive from a standpoint of we let so few hands touch it and mold it and push it forward. And I think that's the reason why you hear the rhetoric of having to understand what Penn State is, what our values are, what we are about. Because we as a fan base, we as former players, current players, are very, very sensitive to our tradition and culture and who we want to be moving forward. And for me, personally, when I look at a guy like Terry Smith and you look at his history from a standpoint, his family going to Penn State, him going to Penn State, playing at Penn State, doing all that he's accomplished, now coming back as a coach, turning in Penn State into a place where DBs go to the NFL, which it really wasn't the case before he got here. Putting all of that together and matching it up with what Pat has said, that is the reason why I think Terry has such a much stronger chance than we originally thought at having this job. When you pair that together with the amount of extensions that have happened to so-and-so candidates that were on our list that we were looking at, when you couple all of these situations together, it's kind of brewing a perfect storm for Terry to step into that role, or at the very least be a part of this program in an integral way.
Hack, it was reported that Terry officially interviewed on Monday for the position. Obviously, Penn State is still doing its due diligence in this search. I would suspect sometime within the next week at most, we will actually finally have an answer as to the direction this thing is going. Any ideas from you how this impacts recruits? We know signing day is coming up on Wednesday. The transfer portal opens on January 2nd. What is the timeline here, and what is the best case scenario for Penn State and Penn State fans that are looking for that answer, and what that next step will be here over the next few days, the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that there's pros and cons to every direction that you could go. And I'm not trying to dodge the question by that. I'm just trying to be completely honest there. Is I think that there's benefits to going outside. There's benefits to keeping it in. I think one probably leans more towards your current roster and then being able to do a good job in the transfer portal. One potentially has an impact on the 2026 recruiting cycle as well as the transfer portal. And ultimately, I'm just not around it enough to really have a good gauge. And that's why the athletic administration, that's part of their job description. And I'm sure that they have a good pulse on it. And, however it goes, I'm going to definitely put any bias aside and egos and rally behind it and put as much support, because that's what we do. To Jason's point, it's a very, very sacred position. Not many people get to do it. And when you have that opportunity, it's definitely been vetted. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But to get to that point, I think it does need to happen here very shortly to get ahead of all of those different scenarios.
The team just arrived here at SHI Stadium in Piscataway. Jason, you've been through this before. Do you remember when Coach O'Brien, the group chat that you had when Coach O'Brien announced that he was going to the Texans?
Yeah, I do, and to be honest, that was a scary time. As a recruit, obviously things happened a lot, faster and really later in the process for us when Coach OB took that job to go to the Texans. But I mean, that 11-day stretch, I believe it was, before they hired Coach Franklin, was crazy. I mean, we are seniors in high school. We're all already committed, and guys are texting the group chat. They're talking about visiting other schools, maybe taking an official. Mind you, we had about a month left. This happens in January. I think signing day was February 5th at that time. I don't know what it is now, but we had about a month and 5 days to really figure things out. And I think to see the togetherness, to see guys rally around each other, to see guys convince people to stay, and it really speaks on Penn State specifically, and how much that university, how much it stands for, what it means to certain people, because there's no coach or any one person or entity that can, mean more than the actual brand of Penn State, what the university stands for. And I think that's the ultimate reason why we only lost one or two recruits during that time. Coach Franklin ended up coming in. We all came in for an official visit, and the rest was history.
And the rest was history as well for what Hack and his class meant to Penn State during that time as well, in the transition from Joe Paterno to Bill O'Brien and then James Franklin. Well, there is a football game to be played here today, Penn State and Rutgers. The winner will get bowl eligibility. When we come back here on the Modelo Penn State football pregame show, we'll talk about the Penn State-Rutgers matchup. Can Penn State get that running game going against a very bad Rutgers run defense today? Don't forget, Modelo, the official import beer partner of Penn State football. 21 plus, please drink responsibly. We'll talk about today's game when we come back.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
We are going for all the marbles next year.
You know the history, and you have felt the roar. But now, you can relive it all.
I think he was looking for a good meal, Italian meal.
Welcome to the Vote on Roar Plus, where every unforgettable Penn State moment lives forever.
If you can get people to believe you're fair, I think that's the whole secret of coaching.
From black and white grit to high-def glory, the Vault is your front row seat to the moments that built this tradition and the ones that built you as a fan. It's not just history, it's Penn State history. And it's all right here at Roar Plus. The roar never stops.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
Pretty nice day here in Piscataway, New Jersey. Temperature 41 right now. There is some wind, probably dipped down a little bit closer to kickoff, but sunny. Can't beat this. Brian Tripp, former Nittany Lions, Christian Hackenberg, Jason Kabinda here on the Modelo Penn State football pregame show ahead of Penn State and Rutgers today. Let's take a look at the records. Both teams identical, 5-6 and 2-6 in Big Ten play. Penn State's won back-to-back games. Rutgers fell last time out 42-9 against Ohio State, although that was a 14-3 game at the half. Both of Rutgers' conference wins coming in their last 4 games at Purdue and against Maryland. So you have 2 teams here looking to get to bowl eligibility today. As a player, Jason, are you thinking about bowl eligibility when you come into a game like this with everything Penn State's been through?
Absolutely. I mean, during my time, the players loved to play, no matter what, regardless if any money or anything was involved. You could tell us to go out in the blacktop, out in the back, and we'd go play whoever. And that's still my mentality. It's what I expect out of current Penn State players as well. At least I so would hope. So yeah, it's another opportunity to spend with your brothers, especially if you're a senior. I think we take it for granted, being able to play sports at this level, and we take for granted how long we're there, and it really flies by in a snap. And, it was really Coach Franklin who used to say that to us all the time. He used to tell us, it's going to be over before you know it, and it's the absolute truth. So you can't take it for granted. You got to go out there and get as many opportunities as you can.
Hack, I don't think we're going to see a 13-10 final here today.
No, I don't expect that. And to Jason, to kind of echo Jason's point, yeah, man, I think it's really, really important to be able to get these. You mentioned the small percentage of people who get to even experience this, right? Like it's pretty remarkable, and the fact that we're even talking about guys, holding out. And there's certain situations that I think I understand from the business side of it, but the vast majority of these seniors who are probably never going to get a chance to play again, that means something to them. And I think, as a young guy or a guy who may have an opportunity to go somewhere else, but it's just, whatever, I think it's vitally important for them to stick together here and give those guys another chance. You got to remove the business at some point and just sit back and appreciate the opportunity that's been given to you. And I think that these guys, have been playing with that type of intent up until this point, and I wouldn't expect that to really waver up until this point. So,
I mean, outside of an extra opportunity, isn't it amazing being able to get bowl gifts and free stuff? I mean, that was enough for me. I mean, I played in the NFL for 6 years, and I still get geeked up when a brand is ready to send me some free product. I'm elated, so.
Well, you're talking, I don't think that we thought we'd be talking about bowls a couple of weeks ago, but let's look at the bowl possibilities for Penn State. And these are the 3 most likely bowl games. You have the Game Above Sports Bowl in Detroit on the day after Christmas. Of course, the Pinstripe Bowl in New York City. And then the Music City Bowl in Nashville on the 30th of December. Those are the 3 most likely bowl destinations for the Nittany Lions. Should they win this game today and defeat the Scarlet Knights to get to 6-6 on the year and end the regular season on a 3-game win streak. To me, this game feels like not so much about what is the matchup, Penn State, Rutgers. You can look at the run game numbers defensively for Rutgers and what Penn State's done in the run game. That's obviously a big part of it, but you're just looking for Penn State to go out and continue what it's done probably the last 10 quarters dating back to that second half of the Indiana game. If they do that, they're as good. They're playing as well, and you saw it against Indiana, a team that's undefeated and is going to be in the Big Ten championship game next weekend. They're waiting to find out who they're going to play, whether it's going to be Ohio State, Michigan, or Oregon. Right now, Ohio State, the 10-9 lead on Michigan in the game. But this is about Penn State just going out and playing its best football like it's done the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and it's just funny when you're in these types of situations with teams that are struggling. It really does not matter when it comes to the numbers and the analytics and diving into it. It's really a lot about momentum, who cares more, probably looking back to who has more talent, and that's again where this Penn State team is very scary. And I stand by what I said. I think the vast majority of the country would not want to play this Penn State football team right now the way that they've been playing. Now, they could go out and make me look very, very stupid here. I don't expect that, but this is a lot about pride. This is a lot about being able to continue the momentum that they've built up into this point. And if they do that, going back to what I said about the Jimmies and Joes, I'm not quite sure if Rutgers has enough in the tank to be able to keep up. And that's, it goes back to like who can grab the momentum faster and then who can run with it. You know what I mean? You let them hang around, they'll be around. But that should be the goal for this Penn State team is get in here, quiet them quick, and then turn it into a track meet. And I don't think Rutgers can keep up.
Traditionally, when you think of Rutgers, you think of the ability to play strong defense and be really strong at the line of scrimmage, but their run defense has been anything but that this year under Greg Schiano. Take a look at these numbers, and everyone knows what Penn State's done the last couple of weeks. 471 rushing yards in the last 2 games combined for Penn State. Rutgers near the bottom of the pack nationally, averaging over 200 rush yards per game against this season. It has been a tough go for that Rutgers run defense. What is it about the Penn State run game and how they match up, Jason, against this Rutgers defense? I mean, we talked about it with the push of that offensive line, right? They should be able to control the line of scrimmage against this group.
Yeah, I mean, when you're allowing 200-plus yards per game rushing, I mean, that means you got some defensive line who we're basically playing Ole defense, I call it. You just say Ole and you let them right through. I mean, that's what it's looking like. This defense right now, I mean, they're just getting gashed over and over again. Teams are coming in with a mentality to run the ball, and they're forcing it right down their throat. And I think by the end of this game, we're going to see Kaytron Allen, really extend his rushing record and obviously the possibility of Nick Singleton scoring as well and getting that touchdown record. But it should be a game where we should come in, impose our will, just the same way we did against Nebraska. Continue to build the play action, continue to build confidence, continue to build and solidify our identity and culture of who we are as a team and program.
Now, they've played from behind most of the season, so that typically lends to a quarterback accumulating more passing yards. But if there's been a bright spot for Rutgers, especially on the offensive side, a team that lost Kyle Monangai, tore it up yesterday in Philadelphia. But Ethan Kaliakmanis, their quarterback, who made his first career start in the whiteout while he was at Minnesota, he's the quarterback. He's got a trio of wide receivers that all have more than 500 yards receiving on the year. Antoine Raymond's running the ball at a pretty good clip, almost 5 yards per carry. It's been this Rutgers offense that's been the bright spot for them and a reason why they've been competitive in some games.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Ethan's a player who's played a long time. And, when you talk about college football, a quarterback can make a big difference. We learned that with the UCLA game and then even a little bit of the Northwestern game with the way that that cat played. So if he's able to come out and play out of his mind and be very, very efficient, I think it's going to pose an issue. But the way that this defense is kind of shaped up, and Jason touched on it, and it's very if he's put in situations where his back's against the wall, I think it's going to be hard for him to be able to outplay the difference in quality of talent. That's what I look for our defense to do, is to put him in those positions where there's a lot of 3rd and 8s early. There's all the pressures on him, and then force him to beat us. If he could beat us, great. Give them a tip of the cap. But that's where I think Jim Knowles is really going to try to do this: is dial it up, have a couple of blitz packages early that are meant to confuse him. Maybe something for him to think about on the sidelines and kind of get him off of just executing. But that is probably the biggest hurdle for our defense heading into this, is how can we confuse that quarterback early and force him to kind of be playing mind games while trying to manage all that pressure.
Yeah, and not just confuse him, but how can we batter this guy? How can we get this guy on the ground? How can we make sure he feels this? How can we make him uncomfortable? When you have a guy who's played, a good amount of football and has seen a lot of defense, that's what you want to do at the end of the day. There's not going to be a ton of gimmicks. Obviously, the blitz packages and things of that nature, where you're going to get him from that standpoint. But, man, in terms of just getting this guy uncomfortable because he's already been under the bright lights, it's freaking put him on the ground. That's how you make a quarterback uncomfortable and not trusting of his blocking or not trusting of his timing and rhythm of how things are supposed to develop. So I expect that to happen early and often in this game.
And denied Dennis Sutton 4 tackles for loss, 4 sacks over the last 3 games. Yvonne Kamaju had a big game last week. Zane Durant playing well here down the stretch as well on that Penn State defensive line. Well, we don't want to peek ahead too much, but this is our last regular season pregame show of the year. So we figured, why not take a look ahead at what the schedule looks like next year for Penn State. And now this is not, the non-conference is in order, but we'll still find out that conference schedule later on. So here are the home and away matchups for Penn State heading into the 2026 football season. You see probably the toughest game on there at Michigan, maybe home against USC, no Ohio State, no Oregon. You do have to go to Washington, which would be a pretty cool trip out to the Lakeshore there to take on the Huskies for the first time. But whoever the new head coach is at Penn State and what that roster looks like, a fairly manageable schedule going into next year. We're hoping for another show. We're hoping for another game this year, but that's a look ahead at 2026. Any reaction there, Hack, to looking at the schedule for next year already?
I thought you made a great point. I mean, it is a relatively easy slate, all things considered. You're not really heading into too much of a buzzsaw, so going back to the pros and cons of the decision that's ultimately going to be made, there's a chance to really get some momentum early there. And then be able to ride it out through the Big Ten if you get the right pieces in place from a personnel standpoint. So it is advantageous and probably something that, whomever is being vetted is definitely looking at as a great opportunity to get off on the right foot and kind of close the door on any of the trepidation that the fan base might have.
So we decide not to schedule Ohio State the year that Franklin's going to be gone. That's when we don't put Ohio State on the schedule, or what?
I think we just blame that on the Big Ten. I don't think.
Crazy. That is crazy. That schedule looks pretty good to me. I mean, it really does. I do think, that Bryce Underwood over there in Michigan is going to be a really, really good player down the stretch. I want to see just how big of a jump he's going to make next year. But I mean, when I look at that schedule, I think it's pretty favorable. Depending on how the ending there is, Wisconsin, USC, how they shape out and look next year. But I think it's a pretty good schedule for Penn State.
Yeah, you see me peeking over a couple of times. It's 10-9 Ohio State with 2 minutes left in the opening half there at the Big House. Ohio State and Michigan, can they make it 5 in a row, Wolverines, against Ohio State? Anyone want to go out on a limb, but not predict the end of that game, but give a score prediction for this game here today between Penn State and Rutgers as we wrap things up?
What you got, Christian?
Oh, Jason, you're the big score predictor guy. I'm going to go pretty similar to last week. I think like 38-10 is probably a good starting point.
Yeah, I agree. I got 31-10 is what I was going to say. So close.
I don't do score predictions.
Yeah,
I'll stay out of that one. I'll just go Penn State. I'll go Penn State. Penn State victory.
Well, it should be a win with authority.
Yeah, I agree with that. The wind is dying down a little bit. There are a couple planes flying overhead, but there's not a cloud in the sky here in the Garden State. Penn State and Rutgers coming up. Kickoff at 3:30 today. We're on the air with the Penn State football pregame show on the Penn State Sports Network at 2 for your radio coverage. Kickoff 3:30. You can watch the game on BTN. Christian, Jason, great stuff. Hope we get to do this for a bowl game. We'll find out here in about 5-6 hours. See how Penn State does today against Rutgers. Appreciate it as always. Take care. This has been the Penn State football pregame.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
We are going for all the marbles next year.
You know the history, and you have felt the roar. But now you can relive it all.
I think he was looking for a good meal, Italian meal.
Welcome to the Vault on Roar Plus, where every unforgettable Penn State moment lives forever.
If you can get people to believe you're fair, I think that's the whole secret of coaching.
From black and white grit to high-def glory, the Vault is your front row seat to the moments that built this tradition and the ones that built you as a fan. It's not just history, it's Penn State history. And it's all right here at Roar Plus. The roar never stops.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing taste. A reward for those with a fighting spirit. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.